Hello and welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your source for the latest procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing insights, anytime, anywhere.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Source One podcast. I'm your host, Bennett Glace. I'm here once again talking talent with our friend Andy Jones. How's it going, Andy?
Hey, it's going well. How are you?
Not too bad. Feeling a little sick, pardon my voice, listeners. So you recently shared a webinar with me on how not to sell staffing services, and one thing that jumped out at me was right out of the gate in this webinar, the host mentioned that no one wants to buy staffing. Is that something you would agree with?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Why do you think that is? Do you think the perception is that it costs too much, or?
Yeah, I think the perception is that it does cost too much, and also hiring in general, because we have a fee on top of what we do. There's a fee to hire somebody, so people just look at using a recruiting firm as blowing money out the door that they'll never recoup.
And is there a perception that this is something that would be better handled internally as well?
Correct. A misperception.
Uh-huh.
It's a definite misperception that people think they can handle it internally.
Mm-hmm. And they also noted that to be successful in staffing, you can't sell staffing. Now, what do you take that to mean?
Society's much different. I mean, at 41 years old, like I can tell you as a 23-year-old, everything's different. So it's not really selling services anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody uses the term consultative so much that you kind of get sick of it. Mm-hmm. But you have to know what you're talking about.
Right.
So, before, let's take like late 90s, early 2000s, before there was really like a huge internet presence, somebody would just call up and say, this is what I do, and I do this, and I sell this, and I sell that. Well, nowadays you have more information at your fingertips. So people want to know that you're actually vested in what they do and what their company does. So if you go in and just say, oh, hey, my name's Andy, I'm a recruiter, do you have any open positions? You're going to fall flat on your face, and justifiably too. Like, you have the ability to be able to look things up, like what jobs are open, what jobs do you think you can fill, what jobs do you have success filling. But also, there are a lot of minefields out there, especially with employment. Like, there's different states and even different cities inside each state where you can't, for instance, ask about salary. Their HR department might not know that. So if you can kind of release that tidbit of information and position yourself as an expert, they're going to be companies will be more than willing to take a chance on you versus someone else.
How do you start the conversation with somebody? What do you find is the best practice for starting a conversation that'll ultimately lead to a follow-up?
Well, I try to look, number one, look at their LinkedIn profile. Number two, I look for anything that they might have published or written. Mm-hmm. Or try to find some kind of a common ground. Like if I saw them at a networking event or something like that. The only people that are going to ask, how are you, are people that are trying to sell you something. Mm-hmm. And I think our guards are up all over the place for people trying to sell us something. I sit here and I'm in the desk and I'm in my office downstairs, and I'll pick up the phone sometimes. And if I know it's somebody looking to sell somebody, it's just roll your eyes and it's like, okay.
Right. And would you say doing that prior research is rare?
Yes. Yeah, and I don't understand why. Mm-hmm.
And that you would say is probably why companies are so wary of people who are quote unquote selling staffing services.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How do you go about presenting what you're offering as something besides salesmanship? How do you make it seem like you are there to answer their concerns rather than line your own pockets or build your own resume?
I talk about it like what it is. We are assisting and we are helping because I don't care how many times somebody can tell me that they're filling something internally. If you have a job that's posted longer than a month, you obviously can't fill it internally. Mm-hmm. Now, for whatever reason that is, internal HR for a company that I'm working with right now, the one internal HR person, she's got IT staffing jobs on her plate. She has supply chain staffing jobs on her plate. She has insurance salesman jobs on her plate, claims representative jobs on their plate. I mean, you can't juggle all of that, mm-hmm. especially when it comes to recruiting. You really have to know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And the only way you're going to know what you're talking about is by putting forth enough time to focus on one thing. Mm-hmm. If you're recruiting internally for an IT position, I will guarantee you that internal recruiter doesn't know the difference between QA, necessarily DevOps, Level 2 help support, network engineering, systems administration. They don't know that, but an IT staffing professional does, which is where we can come in and assist. And if you don't have the knowledge as to what a competent professional does in those fields, it's going to lead to being a mishire. And we've gone on ad nauseum the cost of mishires. I mean, you're talking about 1.75. It's frame it another way. The internal recruiter who's making what they're making, it's that person's salary plus another half as far as cost of mishire, plus a lot of the other projects that were maybe going to be put into motion that now have to be put on hold. And what does that do? Well, that hurts your market share. That's going to make you look weaker in the face of competition. You're not going to be as productive. You're not going to bring in as much revenue. It's a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, not to mention the potential impacts to like company culture or what have you from bringing in the wrong person.
I mean, at the end of the day, do we have a fee? Yes, but you do get what you pay for. I mean, I'll put our track record for our staffing services and the high performers that we place against anybody.
When you're building the business case for leveraging your services, do you find you tend to focus more on the negatives that they're avoiding? Instead of saying, here's what you're getting with me, do you tend to focus on those costs that they might not be thinking about, the sort of lost opportunity that they're avoiding?
Well, the only way we're going to come in is if there is a problem. I mean, that's just the way that it is. So, yeah, I absolutely focus on the negative in what they're avoiding. You have to have that hard conversation. And the way that we separate ourselves from others is that we do have those hard conversations. You're not going to lose something because you have a conversation like that.
You've been listening to the Source One podcast. For more strategic sourcing and procurement insights every day, visit our blog, The Strategic Sorcerer. Want to provide feedback or suggest a topic for a future episode? Let us know at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.